But colors, duh. Okay, so for most people, this stuff right here is duh. For a lot of other people, this stuff is duh too, but I'm going to go over something because most people don't know this. But you see how this is red, green, blue, 255, 255, 255? The values are between 0 and 255, hexadecimal values, right? You can do the same thing with percentages, which you might or might not have known, 0 to 100%. What you might not know, though, is don't mix these two up. You don't do 255, 100% 255. So then we add the A, RGBA. The A stands for transparency. So here I put a 1 because the gist of this slide is all of these colors are white. So it's solid opaque white. Solid opaque white, but using percentages. Then we have something called HSL, and I'll cover HSL in a few slides, but it's this is the value of white, and again you can add the opacity with the A in white. This is not white, color transparent. Does anyone know what what transparent is? What color is transparent? You're kind of like, wow, that is a really dumb question. It's transparent. It is not really. It is transparent black. So it's not a transparent white, it's not a transparent red, it's not transparent green, it's transparent black. So if you are doing a transition from transparent to a color, and you use the key term transparent instead of an RGBA or an HSLA color, it will go through grays. It will be ugly. And that's why it's really important to know that transparent is actually transparent black. And then there's a key term called current color. And current color is the current color of the text. So by default, border color. You know how like when you define a border, the only thing that is required is the border style. You don't have to tell it the width, and you don't have to tell it the color. But border style is required. By default, the border color is current color. So that, we're already using current color without knowing it. But one of the times to use current color is for text, when your text is too thin. And this might never happen to you. This is one of those things, who cares? But I've been required to use a font. Helvetica Neue Light was actually the font. And on the iPhone 4, it's a very, very thin font. It's illegible. It is too thin. So what I did is I put a 1 pixel text shadow on it, completely behind it, not off to the side, not offset. But I don't know what color my text is, because my text color might change. So I just put text shadow 0, 0, 1 pixel current color, and it just made the text a little bit thicker. So current color can be useful. I really feel like I have a tail. It can be useful for that kind of stuff. So name colors. These are your name colors. In CSS3, it was increased to include all the SVG colors. The only thing to note that is even vaguely interesting about all of this is and it's interesting to me because I'm a geek and still haven't figured out how to write the word gray in the United States. Is it AY? Is it EY? I don't know. I don't want to fight about it. Well, it's no longer a fight. They actually accept both colors. So it's light gray with either an E or an A, and your browser will be happy.
Is it particularly one way in other countries?
I thought it was A in the US and E in UK, but I don't know. Like I know that I've had spell checkers tell me I'm wrong, and I'm like, I am not wrong. And you can't fight with a spell checker because it doesn't have a personality. Okay. RGBA. These are same way of declaring the exact same 3 colors. I declare it with RGB 40 BFAC, which is the same as 64, 191, 172. And if you take 64 into 256, that's 25%. If you take 191 into 256, that's 75%. If you take 172 into 255, rather, it's 67%. So these 3 are all the same values. I add a little opacity to it, and it's just the background coming through. It's not fully opaque anymore. Whoop-de-doo. Let's get to HSL because this is new and confusing. The other stuff you probably knew, right? The other stuff was known to everyone except for the current color and the transparent? Okay. So HSL, if you do Photoshop, which I do not do Photoshop, you have HSB for hue, saturation, and brightness. So your designers are coming up with colors based on hue, which is like the color circle from 0 to 360, which goes from red to red. And here it is laid out for you. And the way I actually laid this out is this is 360 1-pixel wide divs, and each one of these hues is 1 pixel different. So that's actually 360 divs, so that's the actual values in the right order. Goes to red, orange, yellow, green, blue, dark blue, purple, pink, back to red. That's hue. Let's move it up and down. You see we go from red to orange to yellow to green to blue, and we're all happy and good. So let's just stick on, I like purple. Your Lego store at the Mall of America does not sell purple Legos separately. Isn't that
Well, it's interesting, but sure, I don't think I've ever seen a purple Lego.
There are purple Legos because now that they sell girl Legos, they're purple boxes. But yeah, they don't sell them separately. But those little people, that you can make little people 3 for $9.99. I made a woman in a bikini with a beard. I mean, the stuff that they have is really random. And with, what's it called when you're arrested?
Handcuffs.
Handcuffs, yes. It's like an S&M little guy, you know, whatever. Okay. That's yeah, because Microsoft. So saturation is how much color. So by default, if you want to be really bright, it's 100%. And then if it's 0, there's a complete lack of color. So here we are mostly saturated at 96%. And then lightness is how much white or lack of light. Light or lack of light. Photoshop will use brightness as the same word. It's the exact same thing. So when you go very bright, it becomes white. And when you go no light, it becomes black. And then you have everything in between. The default, the main value you probably want is 50%. And then you have alpha transparency, which just makes it transparent. And the reason it's gray is because I text shadow on it. So just note that when you have text and you make the color transparent, the text is still there. It's just transparent, so you still see the text shadow. And that will come into play when we talk about opacity versus transparency. Okay, so what's the point of all this? It's just a different way. Like for me, I am so used to this, I find this really easy. However, I need to use this a lot more nowadays because I do a lot of alpha transparency, so I have to convert. It might be easier for me in the long run to get used to that, so I can come up with my own colors without having to do math. Because that's actually really intuitive. It's just not intuitive for me yet because I haven't really used it. So just realize there's another option out there. And so when we change the hue, right, when a value is 0, it just doesn't show up. So that's probably, I need to redo the math on that, on the bottom one. But this is a little converter. This is the GitHub repo for that converter. So if you actually want to link to it directly, you can. And this is, I guess, on my blog. Yeah, I wrote a blog post about this color picker for some reason. Who knows why? So Git repo, you can fork it, and you can actually correct my JavaScript and do a pull request. Thank you for anyone who wants to do that for me. Thank you. So this is a little converter, and it's kind of nice. Notice that when I do alpha transparency, the hexadecimal value goes away, right? Because these values do not support alpha transparency. In IE, sometimes I think it's the last 2 digits that can be alpha transparent, like when you're using filters, but don't use filters. So they want to add that colors could be 8 variables long, and the last 2 digits being alpha transparent. Not sure if they're doing that or not. I don't think that made it. Definitely didn't make it into CSS3 colors, but who knows about CSS4. Opacity. Opaque, fully opaque. We have 5 divs up here. Top one is fully opaque, 75%, 50%, 25%, and 0%. So 0% opaque means that you do not see anything or any of its children. It's generally not what you want. If you're hiding and showing a div, yes, opacity. But if you're doing alpha, if you want to like do shadows, you want to use alpha transparency. Like if you want to do a module on your page, like the background gray, don't make a module 50% opaque. Make it 50% black. And that way it's solid div. It's fully there. If you put any children on it, they'll be fully there. They're not going to be 50% opaque. Does that make sense? So instead use RGBA 00, probably 50. This color is probably what you want for a module. Maybe, yeah, maybe. You can play with it, figure out what you want. So this is what happens here. Because I've used alpha transparency instead of opacity, even the last one, you can still see that there's a div here, and you can still possibly read the text because the text shadow is showing. Right? So the text is gone. And you definitely do want to be using alpha transparency instead of hexadecimal values, and let me show you why. This shadow and this shadow are approximately the same color right there versus right there. But this looks like a shadow. Stuff is coming through. I have a shadow on the wall. You can still see the wall behind it, right? And that's really a bad example because yeah, you can still see the dent right there in the wall. Well, you can't because it's really too mild. But anyway, so you can see it behind it. So here, because I'm using RGBA values, I can see the lines through my text. Here I can't, and here I can't see the lines. So if you want to give something make it look like it has a border, use fully opaque colors. But if you want to make something look like it's actually a shadow, use RGBA. Does that make sense, why you would actually use RGBA? And later on, that's not the best shadow example. You'll see later on, I think there's an example where I really mess it up. Okay, so transparency. These are the color tips. We already went through all of them, but we're going to go over them again. Transparent, it's black, transparent. Current color is the current color of the text. Accessibility, color should not be the only means of conveying information to your users. We have a person in here who is colorblind. When I was doing the red and green to show valid versus invalid, that was of no use to that individual. So yes, you can use color for enhancements, but don't omit information because you think color will take care of everything. And appearance. There's something called WebKit appearance. I put Ma's appearance up here. So when we were showing you the form element, it showed you, let's just go back to that. Still GitHub forms, slide. Let's hope this is the right slide. Okay, so when I went to this and touched the input element, it should have a WebKit appearance, which it's not going to. Oh, here it is. WebKit appearance text field, right there. See that? Input. WebKit appearance, slider horizontal. So this actually has nothing to do with colors, but I had no clue where else to put it in my deck, so I put it in with colors, because it has to do with appearance. By default, or one of the properties in CSS is appearance, and it's still prefixed, but you can change the appearance of things. So if you want to make a button not look like a button, the first step is to do WebKit-appearance none, and then you can style it how you want. So that's Ma's appearance. These are WebKit appearance values: button, none, push button radio. There's a whole bunch of them. And I think I skipped a slide. Oh, this is just a resource for later on if you ever need it. I don't think anyone ever used these colors, but these are deprecated color names. It was basically you could say to your browser, please use the color for the bottom or the arrow of my scroll bar. And you could actually tell it to use whatever color your browser had, but no one ever supported it fully. So